My sister fed my because he ripped her, so I made her terrified. You ever have a sibling who could do no wrong? My younger sister and the golden everything. Shoplifting at 15, getting teachers fired over fake assault accusations, pushing me down the stairs and tearing my ACL. Mom and dad just wrote checks and made excuses. They'd say she's finding herself, while I got grounded for B+ grades. I learned early that in this house I was invisible, just the practice kid they messed up before perfecting their parenting with Lindsay. When I turned 18, I got a job at a shelter and adopted Biscuit, a golden retriever mix with floppy ears and half a tail. The shelter warned he'd been returned twice for being too needy. Perfect, I thought. We needed each other. Biscuit became my everything, waiting by my door every morning and curling against my legs every night. When anxiety attacks hit, he'd rest his head on my chest until my breathing slowed. For the first time in that house, I felt seen. Lindsay noticed the change immediately and started calling him Fleabag, mutt, waste of space. But her words bounced off me now because I had Biscuit. That's when she escalated. One Tuesday, Mom bought Lindsay a $300 Versace shirt, white silk with gold buttons, and Lindsay wore it everywhere, even to breakfast. 3 days later, Mom did laundry, and the washing machine made grinding noises. The shirt ended up torn with a huge rip where it caught in the agitator. Mom panicked and hid it in the garage, but Lindsay found it. The dog destroyed my shirt, she screamed, holding the mangled fabric. He's been with me all morning, I said. She smiled, not her fake Instagram smile, but something darker. Watch your back. 2 days later, I was at school taking a statistics exam when Lindsay texted Mom about period cramps and got picked up after first period. When I got home at 3 p.m., Biscuit was on the kitchen floor, barely breathing with brown foam around his mouth. Lindsay sat at the counter, filing her nails. Guess he got into something, she said. Dogs are so stupid. I dropped to my knees as Biscuit's eyes found mine, clouded with pain. His tail tried to wag but failed. What did you do? She shrugged. I didn't do anything, but you know, chocolates everywhere. Easter candy, brownies, so easy for a dumb mutt to find. I screamed for Mom and begged her to drive us to the vet. I'm not wasting gas on your mutt, she said. You wanted the dog, so take responsibility. I called an Uber with my last $20 and held Biscuit in the backseat, feeling his heartbeat slow. The vet tried everything. Induced vomiting, IV fluids, activated charcoal, but it was too late. He died at 6:23 p.m. with his paw in my hand. I didn't cry then. Something else filled that space. Cold, patient, familiar. The vet tech Jenny had gone to my school and recognized something in my face. She slipped me a business card and whispered, "My cousin's a chemistry major. If you ever need to know about interactions." I spent 3 months researching ipecac, zinc sulfate, copper sulfate, and natural emetics. These were substances that induced nausea, altered taste, and created food aversions. All legal and traceable to common sources. I spent 3 months researching ipecac, zinc sulfate, copper sulfate, and natural emetics. All substances that induced violent nausea, destroyed taste buds, created permanent food aversions. All legal and traceable to common sources. The plan formed slowly around Lindsay's predictable routines. Vanilla lattes every morning, sushi Fridays, Sunday smoothies. It started small with ipecac in her latte. She projectile vomited during her Instagram live. Next came zinc in her smoothie, making everything taste like rotting metal and blood for days. Week 3, I switched her toothpaste with a compound that made everything taste like sewage and decay. She couldn't eat without violently gagging, dry heaving until her ribs ached. Doctors found nothing. Week 5 brought copper in her sushi soy sauce. She had explosive diarrhea, severe dehydration, vomiting blood, and lost 15 pounds in 4 days. She looked like death. By week 8, I mixed everything. Her morning latte became a cocktail of hell that made her smell food and convulse. Her body violently rejected everything while doctors ran frantic tests that came back normal. Mom took her to specialists, holistic healers, hypnotists. Nothing worked. She dropped to 90 pounds, moved to liquid diets, then IV nutrition. One night, she was too weak to close her door. I walked in, sat beside her bed. She looked up, eyes sunken, lips cracked. "Why?" she whispered. I leaned close and smiled her smile, the dark one. "Guess you got into something. Humans are so stupid." Her eyes widened with understanding and terror. But you know, I continued. Karma's everywhere. Easter candy, brownies, so easy for a spoiled brat to find. I left her with that knowledge, that every meal, every sip, every bite for the rest of her life would carry fear. She'd never know what was safe or trust food again. It's been 2 years. She lives on supplements now with a feeding tube when it gets bad. Instagram's abandoned while she spends her days in therapy, trying to explain a trauma no one believes. As for me, I volunteer at the shelter working with abused dogs. I teach them to trust again and eat without fear. There's a portrait of Biscuit in my apartment, and I tell every dog I save about the boy who wagged his tail until the very end. Some say revenge is pointless, that it doesn't bring back what you've lost. They're right, Biscuit is still gone. But every time Lindsay flinches at the smell of coffee or stares at food she'll never taste again, I remember his last moments, the confusion in his eyes, the trust I couldn't protect. She took my best friend over a shirt, so I took her ability to live without fear. My sister fed my dog chocolate because he ripped her new shirt, so I made her terrified of eating for life. You ever have a sibling who could do no wrong? That was Lindsay, my younger sister and the golden child who got away with everything. Shoplifting at 15, getting teachers fired over fake assault accusations, pushing me down the stairs and tearing my ACL. Mom and dad just wrote checks and made excuses. They'd say she's finding herself, while I got grounded for B+ grades. I learned early that in this house I was invisible, just the practice kid they messed up before perfecting their parenting with Lindsay. When I turned 18, I got a job at a shelter and adopted Biscuit, a golden retriever mix with floppy ears and half a tail. The shelter warned he'd been returned twice for being too needy. Perfect, I thought. We needed each other. Biscuit became my everything, waiting by my door every morning and curling against my legs every night. When anxiety attacks hit, he'd rest his head on my chest until my breathing slowed. For the first time in that house, I felt seen. Lindsay noticed the change immediately and started calling him Fleabag.
my mission is simple. Make the most money possible. I'm not alone. My friend Chase is joining me, and in exactly 1 hour, my husband Preston will be jumping on the server to be the last and final judge. He's going to judge who made the most money and whose garden looks the best.
Oh. Well, he knows about money. He doesn't know about looks, though.
Wait, that hurts my feelings.
Wait.
Okay, so welcome to my garden, the Real Brianna Plays garden. So I know the first thing we need to do if I want to get like a ton of money and obviously beat Chase in this challenge, we gotta get some seeds. First, I'm just gonna buy 2 carrots. Simple. Now I have no money, but we're going to go to my garden and plant. Carrot and carrot. Aww, they're happy. Wait, it's growing so fast, I feel like. So I keep hearing that a lot of this game is based on luck. Is that true? How do you get the best of the best produce in this game? I'm not quite sure. Wait, let's see how much this is worth. 25 cents. Okay, we're already making over like way more than we had before. Oh my gosh, Chase just terrified me.
Okay, Bree's already selling some carrots. That's crazy.
I'm gonna buy strawberry.
You can already afford strawberries?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta grow these carrots and rethink about my strategies. She already have strawberries.
You know what is bothering me is it's based on where you click, where, you know, the carrots go down. I want them to be like in a perfectly straight line, and they're not.
Okay, grow my carrots. Grow my carrots.
What can I get in the shop? Oh, there's pets. I've also been told the Forever Pack is pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that. That was free. That just gave me a ton of cents. Oh, then we're gonna buy the Forever Pack fully, I guess. Oh, that just gave me so many cents. Do you wanna know how many cents I currently have?
7.
1,156 cents.
Listen, I bet you I can make $1 million.
I'm gonna make $1 billion. Like, we have an hour. This is totally possible.
Now remember, Bree, you said Preston's gonna grade us on the aesthetic and the looks of the garden, right?
And who makes the most money?
You know what? I'm gonna investigate these other gardens. They look really nice. Wait, Bree. Just wait. Oh, wait. What if I? Oh, did I just spend Robux?
I want a mythical cactus seed. Wait, Chase Monroe. I got a notification that you stole from me.
No, sorry, Bree. I'm talking to Steven right now. I don't know what you're talking about.
Who's Steven?
Steven's the guy who sells all this stuff.
Hey.
This is not okay. I'm trying to win fair and square.
And I'm trying to win.
That says all we need to know.
No, wait.
All right, the seed shop has new stuff. So first of all, let's sell to Steven the extra strawberries. I got 35 cents. Wow.
Ooh, that's a bit. Is that a golden? Oh, I got a golden strawberry.
You're kidding. Was it with the one that you stole from me?
No. This is the biggest strawberry I've ever seen in my life. Holy cannoli.
I've planted it and now I have watering cans. So what is this gonna do? Oh, it's growing so fast.
Okay, we are snowballing the amount of money we're earning in this. I think I can win this.
I can't let Chase win when he's literally cheating. I would like to sell my inventory. And I made 59 cents. Wow, that was way less than I expected. And now I have almost no money. Wait, my blueberries. My blueberries are growing. Why is this so satisfying?
Okay, wait. Let's go to seeds. Seeds, Sam, talk to me.
All right, this is my first time selling the blueberries. I'm curious, how much is this worth? It is 28. I thought it'd be much more than this. I'm kind of like, whatever. Here's the thing, guys. I thought I would get so much more money for those blueberries than I did. Let's go back in the seed shop. I mean, currently, I can't really buy anything cool. Don't tell Chase. I'm gonna use more Robux. We already started the Forever Pack. Like, I might as well just keep going. Woo! I'm getting a lot of extra money. Oh, my Lanta. Oh, we're just going for it. I just keep getting more free stuff.
personalized home insurance deals already done for you.
Piece of cake.
Just make it simple with personalized deals delivered from Compare the Market.
Free stuff. Do I go this big? I'm doing it. What if we make $1 billion in an hour? And then like, you know, like we're gonna earn our money back.
I don't think I am gonna spend anything. I'm just gonna spend Josh's Robux. I'm gonna bury you, Bree. You're going down.
So now we can see where my pumpkin is. And the apple's over here. Oh, you're kind of fast, dang. We're making progress. We're already at 1,000. Y'all, I totally just used Robux for all of that though. I shouldn't be kidding myself too much. Sell my inventory. 266, nice, that was pretty good.
Right, Bree, how much time do we have left?
So just so you know, 20 minutes have now gone by. If you want to
20?
take a look at my garden, you should come take a look.
I mean, listen, I've probably made a lot more progress than you. I'll be right over.
There's no way he's made more progress than me. Absolutely not. Chase, stop stealing. It literally pops up on the screen.
I think you're looking at someone else's stuff, Bree.
Don't
where's
steal
your-
from me. I'll cry. Welcome. I have strawberries, tomato, blueberries, an apple, and a
Wait.
pumpkin.
You have an apple tree already?
Yeah.
Oh, gee. Okay. Well, Bree, you don't need to look at mine. Okay, that's
I'm definitely going to look at yours. Where is it? Wait, your
So,
aesthetic is better than mine.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Wait. Do you think Preston would agree with you?
Yeah. Wait, I gotta get to work. Chase, we can't keep talking.
What? That's exactly what Preston says.
I didn't place these well. So I think I'm gonna have to go to the gear shop actually over here and buy something called a trowel to move trowel. I've never gardened in real life, but Eloise is the name of my cat and I know she's not gonna let me down. Show me my gear options, girl. I'm just gonna buy it for Robux. Do not tell Chase. Aesthetic is very important here. And again, what if I make 1 billion shekels? Then this is all worth it.
Sell this wet moonflower. I want to sell this. How much is this? $28,000. Oh, how much is this moonlit frozen gold cacao? Please. Did I just make $2.5 million?
So let's pull out the trowel. I'm moving it. I'm moving the blueberry. I want him to be like centered. I want him to be, turn around. No, okay. Well, he goes there. That was a good move. We're just gonna keep things a little more spaced out. Sell my inventory. How much am I gonna get? 290. So I have almost 2,000 shekels. What can I buy? There's not a ton of really crazy stuff in stock, but it looks like you can buy stuff with Robux. So here's the thing. If Preston is gonna be the judge, cactus is his favorite plant in all the world. So I have to use Robux to get this. That's so bad. That's so bad. Don't tell. I mean, I'm doing it to make Preston happy, right? So it's all for a good reason. Now, the cactus is going to be like front and center item. So I'm gonna put him here. Yes, it's a him. I have decided.
Bamboo. Oh, bamboo. Oh, yeah. Let's buy all the bamboo, baby. If it's in stock, I'm buying it.
Chase, stop that.
What? Stop what? Stop what?
Stop making a trade. I don't know. You're probably taking what I want.
Wait, is it all? I just bought everything in the shop.
Wait, you're kidding.
Wait, does that mean you can't buy it?
What?
Is that how it works?
I don't know. It says no stock on a lot of stuff.
Oh no!
Did you actually do that, Chase?
I think I gotta go. Oh, my mom's calling me, Brie. I'll be AFK for a second.
Now, how does somebody get a garden like this? This is absolutely insane. It says keep out, no trespassing. There's animals! Wait, collect? Take player's fruit? Hold on. Wait, you can take from a garden? Moon melon! Collect. I'm taking the moon melon.
Wait, Bree stealing from Joe too? Okay, I see what's going on. Never mind.
I stole! I'm running, I'm selling it. How much is it?
It's fair. I stole, she stole.
How much is this worth? Tell me. Did it say over 5 million cents? Oh, we're selling this.
What's it like watching the new Sky Glass TV? Well, with a 4K HDR screen and a Dolby Atmos soundbar built in, it feels like you're right in the middle of it. The telly.
Sky Glass. Believe in better.
The Ultimate. Main technical partner for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Ventus. Hungko Tire.
That's insane! That should be illegal. Don't steal. I guess stealing is illegal. That's good. So none of these crazy ones are in stock, but now we can afford literally anything in the entire game. Let's get some bamboo.
I got a thick piece of bamboo growing right now. It's making me kind of nervous.
You have bamboo?
Yeah, bro. I got a golden tulip.
Wait, I just realized I have bamboo too. You're so going down.
Oh my! It's a big carrot, bro. Bro, look, it's taller than me.
No, I'm honestly a little intimidated right now. I need to just sell things. Wait, how are you doing this over here?
Wait, Bree, you have a golden bamboo.
I know. Wait, that's why it's gold, because it's golden.
I want it.
No, please.
Oh,
Chase, no. Please
Fine.
don't.
Okay, all right. Bree, I just want to. Oh, that is so cool.
Stop it. Get away.
All right, fine. How long do we have, Bree?
27 minutes. I got a golden strawberry. Why is it so exciting to get a golden piece of something? Wait, they have a cacao seed for sale. And I have enough money. Heck yes. Then we're gonna do a pepper. Then Bree needs to cool her jets because what I keep doing is spending Robux and then giving myself a little time to process and walk away, and then I buy more. Wait, I could make $1 billion. I'm already at 4 million. All I need is to hang out with my friend Joe, and then it'll be fine. Wait, Chase is already in here.
Okay, whoa. Oh, there's Bree. Hide.
I just stole from Joe again. Oh no! I was telling Chase that he was being a bad cheater, but then here I go. How much can I sell Joe's plant for, Steven? How much?
Hey.
Over $1 million? Wait. Joe, am I getting this flower? I am accepting it. Thank you so much. Wait, let's see how much this is valued for.
What is that? Why is yours glowing and in ice? Oh, that can't. Is that worse?
Chase!
Bree, how much was
Okay.
that? Okay, but it can't be much more than $1 million, right?
No, not at all.
Bree, your voice just changed.
I could potentially become a billionaire before the time's up. That's all I'm saying.
And I am gonna steal her golden bamboo. She will not. She's not gonna like me.
No! Chase Monroe, if you stole my oh my gosh, you stole my golden bamboo. I'm literally going to murder you. How dare you?
She's gonna kill me.
Chase, that was what I was most excited about.
No, Bree, I'm sorry.
I'm
Don't
really
be mad.
sad.
Wait. Just take it back. I don't want it. I regret everything.
Yes, trade it. Give that
All right,
back to me.
Fine, here you go.
Thank you.
Just take it. That was too low.
Chase, literally because you stole my bamboo, it can't be in my garden anymore.
Skill issue. Wait, one of my tulips is becoming like prismatic or like rainbow. What is happening?
No, you're kidding.
What is this? A rainbow tulip! Yes!
What?
It's so beautiful. And it's a triple rainbow? Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Bree, this might be one of my favorite games of all time. I love this.
I have a golden blueberry.
No way.
Yes.
Bree, did you see that Beasley swarm? What is that? What is that about to do?
There's a bee swarm?
Yeah, it popped on the screen.
Oh, wait, it's gonna pollinate our stuff, I think. Maybe it'll grow faster? A fruit in my garden mutated?
Yo, they're infecting my bamboo. Is this
Wait,
good?
is this good or bad?
Bree, it's turning our plants into gold.
Wait, that sounds like a good thing. Wait, Joe, I kind of want to steal more. I just stole something that seems like the most epic thing in the game. It's called the Bloodlift Moonlit Frozen Shocked Gold Celeste Berry. I do think this is probably the most expensive item in the entire game. I mean, also you can tell me in the comments because I'm sure I'm wrong, but this seems very fancy, whatever this is. $20 million! Stop. Y'all, I am literally at over 126 million shekels. Chase is so going down. I have so many golden things. I want to keep it that way for when Preston looks at my garden. Chase, we're at like 10 minutes, so I'm just saying.
10 minutes? Okay. Oh, daffodils.
Wait, I don't have any flowers. Thank you for letting me know.
Think about it. Preston doesn't like flowers, you know?
Corn. Corn!
Oh, wait, he loves corn. Dang it.
The daffodils can go in the front. I think that'd be pretty. Just 2 little daffodils here, and then the corn will go here and here. Oh, this is looking great.
Okay, grow all. Let's see what happens here. Sorry, Josh. Thank you for the money. What'd that do? Whoa. That. Oh, I have a tree. And the rose bush at the bottom of the tree looks so good.
Hi, Mr. B. BU, you're beautiful. Oh, he's pollinating. I'm emotional about it.
Okay, let's see.
Sage de bœuf dans le fourrière, baissiner avec 20 minutes, c'est qui vite faut dry, non? And voilà.
This gonna taste all right.
Let's see. Spruce up the farm? Why not? Sign in crate, fun crate. 1 mil. Okay, that's a lot of money. Oh, no, misclick. I didn't mean to buy it. Oh, no. Okay, I misclicked and spent $1 million. Is that normal?
You spent $1 million.
It was on accident. I didn't mean it. Hey, Mr. Joe, do you have any extra tree seeds? Whoa, geez, I don't know. You can't just pull that. Ew, never mind. Okay, I'm never talking to the turtle again.
What is this? Chase, you have 2 seconds to get back to your garden before I steal your golden tulip.
No, please. Can we just
No, you have a rainbow tulip. You have a rainbow tulip.
No, don't breathe. Come on, that's like my favorite thing. Just take a golden bamboo.
Okay, I won't do it.
Okay, I'm freaking out. How close is he?
We only have 3 minutes left. This is wild.
Okay.
Wait,
All right.
Last thing I'm gonna do, I'm muting up. I need a buddy for my farm. Okay, so I cannot have my garden have no pet eggs. We've got to buy an egg. Common for 50,000, or I go with an $8 million mythical egg. I've got to do it. I just bought it, and we're placing the egg. The egg is going to go in a very special spot. He's gonna be hidden right here. Now it takes a while for him to hatch. I got a mythical pet. I do think before the time is up, I have to, for aesthetic purposes, grow all, obviously. Oh! Whoa! It looks so good! And my little guy, he's still... Wait, skip growth. Skip growth! Oh, you have to pay. I mean, at this point, might as well, right? What's it gonna be? I'm nervous. A little squirrel! Oh, he's precious! Wait, here, I'm gonna put you... Guys, what did I just do to my squirrel? Two? Put him down. There you go. Enjoy the life of grandeur in my beautiful, beautiful farm. I'm definitely going to win. Did you hear the timer just go off?
Wait, the timer went off?
The timer just went off.
Hands up. Oh, hands up.
That was nerve-wracking. All right, enter in celebrity guest judge, my husband, Preston.
Thank you, all the applause. I've come to judge. I've been told I'm good at this.
So, I'm playing Grow a Garden with Chase. And you have to judge us on 2 categories. So it's a competition to see whose garden is the most aesthetic and who made the most money.
Oh, this is gonna be wicked. Okay.
Chase, how about you start your tour.
All right. I guess Preston, follow me.
I hope you guys know that I'm a very harsh judge,
That is
but I
true.
will be very fair.
This garden is called the Cheston Garden for the Chase Preston Garden.
Whoa,
You're
wait,
always
this is
welcome here.
sick. Wait, this is so cool. Wait, you got a rainbow plant?
You like it? You actually like it?
Wait, what kind of rainbow plant is that? What is that? What is that? Can you go
Oh, it's
is
a
it
rainbow
tulip?
tulip. You noticed.
Yo.
So cool. I
Wait,
was
Oh, you ran to the
this
corn.
is sick.
You like
Honestly, it's so well organized.
Thank you.
Okay, aesthetics are looking up, man. I don't know if it's because I just love things being organized, but seeing the crops and the tulips really well on both sides, it's just like,
Oh no.
it feels like I'm kind of walking down the aisle,
That's
you know?
right.
Like it's
That's
beautiful.
Right, side by side, you know?
Okay, so now I'm going to judge you, Chase,
Right, the judge.
on the aesthetics.
Of course.
Yes.
Is that okay? But I would like to judge from above. All right, I'm gonna say it right now. The organization is so good in Chase's garden. I do enjoy the different colored bamboo. They are also aesthetically pleasing. The rainbow tulip is also such a rare seed to get. And the fact that you got that also makes your garden very special. However, this side has a lot left to be desired.
Yeah,
I don't really
it's-
like this left side, to be honest. It's
yeah,
kind of like a desert palm tree Mexico wannabe.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a New Mexico type vibe. I get it.
You had the tulips and the strawberries and the carrots, and it was really
Yeah,
nice and uniform. But then, what happened? The rating here on the aesthetics, I'm gonna say 7 out of 10. It's good, but it can be improved.
That's good.
That's fair.
But we have to combine our scores because now I need to know how much money this garden has made.
Well, yeah, okay, so it's made me
100 and I'm assuming it's the 109 million in the top right-hand corner.
Wait, how did he know that?
I have my sources. I have
Why
my
is everyone know
sources.
but me? I'm so frustrated. Okay.
All right, 109 million. I mean, that's pretty good. $109 million is pretty good.
There's no chance Bree has more than that.
We gave ourselves an hour time limit, by the
Just
way.
an
We
hour.
did all of this in an hour.
I'll bump that 7 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 because of the amount of money your garden was able to make. Over $100 million in an hour is really impressive, especially considering that you guys didn't use Robux. Okay, now we get to look at Brianna's build.
Mine.
Okay. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Go ahead. Look at all the gold.
Ooh.
I kept all the gold.
Okay,
Why do you hate it? I'm confused.
I don't hate it. I'm just taking it in. I'm just taking it all in, Brie.
I have a cacao.
What? Oh, you have a pet squirrel?
He's so cute.
He's gonna take all your nuts.
Wait, he actually steals your fruit?
Yeah, bro, he's a squirrel. They literally take fruit and nuts. Thieves.
Preston, I put the cactus up front and center just for you.
I do like that I feel like the cactus could be a little bit bigger on the left-hand side. The beanstalk is a nice addition. I mean, people love beanstalks. It's
do.
just, I think I see what you were trying to do, but unfortunately the beanstalk on the left is just really short, and then the beanstalk on the right is so tall. They're not very uniform. You know, like both sides of the garden, I'm looking for synergy or harmony, and it's kind of like Chase's where it's not fully synergistic.
But I have a squirrel.
It is definitely not the prettiest garden I've ever walked into. Okay, I could tell that there was a lot of heart and soul. Well, not a lot, but there was some heart and there was some soul that went into this. I'm gonna give this one a 6.5.
Whoa!
Yeah, 6.5.
Oh, that's way under me.
6.5 on the aesthetic spree. It's just like nothing here is uniform.
happy about
It's a
it.
very ugly garden.
Oh!
But you tried, and so that's why I'm giving you a 6.5 because I can tell there was effort, but there was no beauty. But there is a bit of a saving grace here. Bree could still win this depending on how much money her garden made.
Exactly.
Bree actually made 118 million. She made more than Chase.
Wait, 100 and what million?
Your garden made 109 million and hers made 118 million. So even though hers is uglier, hers is technically more efficient.
Okay, Preston, just tell us whose garden is the best.
I gave Chase a 7 for his garden's aesthetics.
Yeah?
But then I gave him another extra point for a total of 8 out of 10 because his garden made over 100 million. Brianna is getting a 6.5 because her garden does not look great. However, it is making more money, which means it's more effective.
Exactly.
And if I gave Chase 1 point for a garden that made less money than Brianna's, that means I've got to give Brianna
What?
a total score
Of what?
6.5 for how it looks, but then another 2, making it an 8.5 because of how effective it is. I'm sorry, Chase, but it's all about the money, and you know that.
It's 0.5 more. Oh my.
That's right.
Oh, Bree.
Decimals, baby.
Oh, this is
Science, Rich.
I'm never growing a garden again.
I don't want to see your garden anyways.
I might
Rename it.
have made
Idiot.
some money off of Joe, by the way.
Who's Joe? Joe Mama.
People who come from broken homes, how did you avoid repeating your parents' mistakes? My dad had me when he was 17, and he always told me that I was the reason he ended up broken and alone. Because of him, I grew up with extremely low self-esteem and trust issues, and when I myself made a mistake and became pregnant at 16, I was absolutely terrified. I remember my boyfriend's mom filed for emergency custody of my baby, then sat across from me in a counseling session and said, "You're a scared session and said, "You're a scared little girl playing mommy. It's time to grow up and let him go." When I tried to stand up for myself, she laughed and said, "You think a judge will believe a basement baby story?" I didn't say a word. That was 2 months ago. This morning, she was crying in her driveway while her husband packed a bag. My dad had me when he was 17, and he always told me that I was the reason he ended up broken and alone. Because of him, I grew up with extremely low self-esteem and trust issues. And when with extreme He always told me that I was the reason he ended up broken and alone. Because of him, I grew up with extremely low self-esteem and trust issues. And when I myself made a mistake and became pregnant at 16, I was absolutely terrified. I remember crying my eyes out, unsure of what to do. In the end, I decided not to tell him. I just couldn't. Instead, I went to the only person who ever seemed to care about me, my grandmother. She was my mom's mom, and my mom left when I was a baby, so she was the only connection I had to that whole side of the family. She never liked my dad, said he abandoned my mom when she was pregnant, then showed up years later acting like a hero when it was already too late. As soon as he showed up, my mom left me. Grandma refuses to tell me why. Still, when I told her I was pregnant, she didn't yell. She didn't look disappointed. She hugged me. She said she'd help me figure it out. We agreed that I'd hide the pregnancy, stay in school, and once the baby was born, we'd make a plan. Her house was too small, and my dad would never let me live with her, so we agreed on something kind of crazy. I'd keep the baby in our basement. I know how that sounds, but it wasn't some dirty, dark place. We cleared out a space, added a heater and blankets and supplies. My boyfriend Liam would come by through the side door when my dad was working. He brought diapers, formula, whatever we needed. It wasn't perfect, but we were surviving. I hid my pregnancy by staying as far away from my dad as possible, and because he was so emotionally absent, it really wasn't hard. My baby Noah was born in secret at my grandma's house. I didn't go to the hospital. We had a retired nurse help with it, someone my grandma knew from church. After that, I took care of my son every night in the basement while my dad thought I was doing homework or watching TV. I was exhausted all the time. Liam helped when he could, but he was working too. We were waiting until I turned 17 so we could get a place together and be free. But then everything exploded one night in the middle of January. The furnace broke and the house was freezing. My dad was a space heater. Knew before he even opened the basement door that this was it. I heard him go down there. Then I heard silence. Then footsteps back up the stairs, but slower. When he came into the kitchen, he was holding a tiny sock in his hand, and his face looked like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't yell. He just asked, "Whose baby is in my house?" I wanted to lie, but I couldn't. I told him the truth, and he lost it. He was pacing and shouting and saying, "You ruined your life," and "How could you do this in my house?" and "Is this what I worked my butt off for?" I told him I was leaving, taking my baby and going to grandma's. He tried to stop me, but I was done. I left that night with my baby in a car seat and my grandma waiting in the driveway. The next few weeks were awful. My dad didn't call. I didn't call him. Grandma was stressed out. She blamed him for everything. She said if he'd just shown me grace, maybe I wouldn't have felt like I had to hide. But I knew part of it was my fault too. I didn't trust him to tell him the truth. I had just assumed he'd hate me the way he seemed to hate himself. Then it got worse. Liam's parents found out. His mom even offered to pay him to walk away and leave me. She told him she'd give enough so he could go to college out of state and start fresh. But he said no. He chose to stay. My dad somehow found out. And to my surprise, he said he respected Liam for that. I think he just saw his younger self in Liam, but maybe a version of him that could do better. Things were almost looking up for a while. My dad seemed to accept Noah when we spoke over the phone, but then my grandma had a heart attack. It was minor, but it was enough to scare me. I had to go back to my dad's house. There wasn't anywhere else. He didn't say much at first, just set up the crib in my room and went back to work. And for a few months, things were okay. My baby was growing, my dad was more involved, and Liam was as present as a dad in his situation could be. But then it happened. We were trying to rebuild something one night when CPS showed up. Someone had reported an unfit environment for an infant. All hell broke loose. My grandma thought my dad did it. My dad thought grandma did it. They argued in front of the social worker about it. It was a mess. The worker had to get them to calm down. We sat down with her soon after and explained everything, the entire history, the full truth of how Noah got here. And that's when she revealed something that made my jaw drop. The person who reported us wasn't grandma or my dad. It was Liam's mom, Jessica. She wanted the baby taken away so Liam wouldn't have to ruin his life. My jaw literally dropped. I knew Jessica didn't approve of me, but I never thought she'd go this far. She wants Noah taken away, I said, the realization hitting me hard. She thinks if Noah's gone, Liam will go to college and forget about us. Dad looked furious. Grandma reached over and squeezed my hand. The CPS worker, who I will call Barbara, explained that the case would remain open while they investigated. She said they'd need to interview Liam and his parents too. Before she left, she told me that in cases like this, they try to keep families together if possible, but I needed to demonstrate that I could provide proper care for Noah. As soon as she left, I called Liam. He was shocked when I told him about his mom. He swore he had no idea she would do something like this. I believed him. Liam's always been honest with me, sometimes brutally so. He promised to talk to his mom, make her understand that this wasn't helping anyone. The next few weeks were intense. I was constantly on edge, worried that CPS would show up again and take Noah. I made sure the house was spotless. I kept detailed records of Noah's feedings, diaper changes, and naps. I read every baby book I could find at the library. Dad helped more than I expected, installing baby gates and outlet covers throughout the house. Liam confronted his mom, but it didn't go well. He came over afterward with a red mark on his cheek where she'd slapped him. I was horrified, but he brushed it off. He said his mom was just upset and would come around eventually. I wasn't so sure. There was something in Jessica's eyes when she looked at me and Noah, something cold and calculating. A week later, Jessica showed up at our house. Dad let her in before I could object. She was wearing this fake sympathetic expression that made my skin crawl. She said she wanted to apologize and help us work things out. I didn't trust her for a second, but Dad seemed to buy it. He offered her coffee, and they sat at the kitchen table while I stood by the doorway, ready to grab Noah and run if needed. I realize now that I overreacted, Jessica said, stirring sugar into her coffee. I was just worried about Liam's future, but I see how much he cares about you and the baby. She suggested that we all meet with a family counselor to discuss how to co-parent effectively. It sounded reasonable on the surface, but something felt off. Why the sudden change of heart? I agreed cautiously, mostly to get her out of our house. After she left, Dad said he thought she seemed sincere. I wasn't convinced. Grandma was even more suspicious when I told her about it on the phone later. She warned me to be careful, that people like Jessica don't change overnight. The family counseling session was scheduled for the following week at some office downtown. Liam seemed hopeful that his mom was finally accepting our situation. I wanted to believe it too, but I couldn't shake this feeling of dread. The day before the counseling session, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a screenshot of an email from Jessica to a lawyer, discussing options for getting custody of Noah. The text just said, "Thought you should see this. Be careful tomorrow." No signature, no explanation of who sent it. I later found out it was from Quinn, one of the nurses at the pediatrician's office who had overheard Jessica discussing her plans while there for her own appointment. I tried calling the number back, but it was disconnected. I showed the text to Dad and Grandma. Dad thought it might be fake, someone trying to stir up trouble. Grandma wasn't so sure. She suggested we cancel the counseling session, but I wanted to know what Jessica was planning. If she was trying to take Noah, I needed to be prepared. The counseling office was in this fancy building with leather chairs and abstract art on the walls. Jessica and her husband Joseph were already there when we arrived. Liam came separately from work, still in his grocery store uniform. The counselor, Dr. Taylor, seemed nice enough, asking us all to introduce ourselves and explain our relationship to Noah. Everything was going fine until Jessica started talking about how concerned she was about Noah's well-being. She mentioned the CPS visit, twisting the facts to make it sound like I was completely negligent. I tried to defend myself, but she kept interrupting. "I just think Noah deserves better," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Casey is so young, and she's already made so many mistakes." That's when she pulled out a folder and handed it to Dr. Taylor. It contained printouts of social media posts from before I was pregnant, showing me at parties. Nothing wild, just normal teenage stuff, but she was making it seem like I was some out-of-control party girl. There were also medical records showing I'd missed some prenatal appointments because I was hiding the pregnancy, and a statement from one of Liam's friends claiming he'd seen me drinking while pregnant. A complete lie. I was blindsided. I later learned that Jessica had a friend who worked in medical records at the clinic where I'd gone for my one prenatal visit, which is how she accessed my private information. Dr. Taylor looked uncomfortable as she flipped through the folder. Liam jumped to my defense, saying his mom was lying and manipulating the situation. His dad just sat there looking at the floor. "I think we should consider a temporary custody arrangement," Jessica said smoothly. "Joseph and I could take Noah until Casey and Liam are more established. We have a stable home, financial security." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was trying to take my baby, right there in front of everyone. I grabbed Noah's carrier and stood up. "This isn't counseling," I said, my voice shaking. "This is an ambush." I walked out with Noah, Liam right behind me. I could hear Jessica telling Dr. Taylor that my emotional outburst just proved her point. Dad and Grandma were waiting in the parking lot. They'd driven separately. One look at my face and they knew something had gone wrong. On the drive home, I told them everything. Dad was furious. I'd never seen him so angry on my behalf before. He kept saying we needed a lawyer, but I knew we couldn't afford one. Grandma was quiet, which was unusual for her. When we got home, she asked to hold Noah while I calmed down. "We need to be smart about this," she finally said. "Jessica has money and connections. We need to be one step ahead of her." The next day, Jessica sent Liam a text saying that if he didn't convince me to do the right thing and let them take Noah temporarily, she would make sure CPS took him away completely. She claimed to have friends in the system who could make it happen. Liam showed me the text, his hands shaking with anger. I was terrified. Could she really do that? Did she actually have connections in CPS? I didn't know, but I couldn't take the risk. Grandma suggested I document everything, every threat, every lie, every manipulation. She dug out an old tape recorder from her closet and told me to keep it with me whenever Jessica was around. 2 days later, Barbara from CPS came for another home visit. This time she brought a colleague named David. They asked more detailed questions about my relationship with Liam, my plans for the future, and how I was handling motherhood. I answered honestly, trying not to show how nervous I was. Then David mentioned that they'd received another call, this time alleging that I was planning to leave the state with Noah. "That's not true," I said immediately. "Who told you that?" They couldn't say, but I knew it was Jessica. She was trying to make me look unstable and unreliable. I showed them the text she'd sent Liam, explaining that she was trying to manipulate the situation to get custody of Noah. David seemed concerned and made a note of it, but Barbara's face remained neutral. After they left, I broke down crying. It felt like everything was spiraling out of control. Dad awkwardly patted my shoulder, then surprised me by pulling me into a real hug. It was the first time he'd hugged me since I was little. "We're not going to let them take Noah," he said firmly. "I didn't do right by you growing up, but I'm going to do right by you and Noah now." His words meant more to me than he probably realized. For the first time, I felt like we were actually on the same team. The next week was a blur of CPS visits, threatening texts from Jessica, and sleepless nights. Liam's dad, Joseph, showed up one evening looking uncomfortable. He said he didn't agree with what Jessica was doing, but he didn't know how to stop her. He slipped me an envelope with $500 in cash, saying it wasn't much but might help if we needed a lawyer. I was surprised. I'd always thought Joseph was completely under Jessica's thumb. Then things got even weirder. I started noticing a black SUV parked down the street from our house. The same car would sometimes follow me when I took Noah to the doctor or to visit Grandma. I pointed it out to Dad, who took down the license plate number but couldn't see who was driving through the tinted windows. One day, I was at the grocery store with Noah when I ran into Jessica. She acted surprised to see me, but I had a feeling it wasn't a coincidence. She cooed over Noah, asking to hold him. I refused as politely as I could. Her smile tightened. "You know, Casey, this would all be so much easier if you'd just be reasonable," she said, her voice low. "Liam Liam has such a bright future ahead of him. Don't you want what's best for both of them? What's best for Noah is to be with his parents, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. His parents? She laughed. Your children playing house. Noah deserves better. I had the tape recorder in my pocket, secretly recording everything. As I turned to leave, Jessica grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. This isn't over, she hissed. One way or another, I'm going to make sure my son doesn't throw his life away because of your mistake. I pulled away and hurried to the checkout, my heart pounding. When I got to the car, I noticed a piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. It was a handwritten note. I can help you with Jessica. Meet me at the library tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. It wasn't signed. I showed the note to Dad and Grandma when I got home. Dad thought it was a trap, that Jessica was trying to lure me somewhere to cause trouble. Grandma wasn't so sure. She thought it might be Joseph trying to help, or maybe even one of Jessica's friends who disagreed with what she was doing. After much debate, we decided I would go, but not alone. Dad would come with me, but stay out of sight. If anything seemed off, I'd text him immediately. I was nervous about the meeting, but also desperate for any help we could get. The library was quiet when I arrived, just a few elderly people reading newspapers and a couple of students studying. I sat at a table near the back, where I could see the entrance. At exactly 2 p.m., a woman walked in. It took me a moment to recognize her without her navy pantsuit. It was Barbara from CPS. She sat down across from me, glancing around nervously. I shouldn't be doing this, she said quietly, but what Jessica Reese is doing isn't right. Barbara explained that Jessica had indeed called in the original complaint, but she'd also been calling repeatedly since then with new allegations. She'd even sent emails with doctored photos trying to make it look like Noah was being neglected. Barbara had become suspicious when the allegations kept changing, and none of them matched what she'd observed during her visits. She claimed to know my supervisor, Barbara said. She implied that if I didn't recommend removing Noah, she'd make trouble for me. But I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I know a vendetta when I see one. I was shocked. Jessica had gone even further than I thought. Barbara advised me to keep documenting everything, and to consider getting a restraining order if Jessica's behavior escalated. She couldn't officially help me beyond doing her job fairly, but she wanted me to know what we were up against. As she got up to leave, she paused. For what it's worth, from what I've seen, you're doing a good job with Noah. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Her words gave me a boost of confidence I desperately needed. I texted Dad that everything was okay, and he met me outside. On the drive home, I filled him in on what Barbara had said. He was quiet for a while, then said, "Your mom would be proud of you." It was the first time he'd mentioned my mom in a positive way. I wanted to ask more, but I could tell from his expression that the subject was closed for now. When we got home, there was a fancy envelope in the mailbox. Inside was an invitation to a mediation session at Jessica and Joseph's house that weekend. The invitation said it would be a chance for all of us to discuss Noah's future in a neutral, supportive environment. Dad snorted when he read that part. Their house is about as neutral as a shark tank, he muttered. I knew it was probably another trap, but ignoring it might make us look uncooperative to CPS. After talking it over with Grandma and Liam, we decided I would go, but with backup. Dad, Grandma, and Liam would all come with me. Safety in numbers. The day of the mediation, I was a nervous wreck. I dressed Noah in his cutest outfit and packed an extra full diaper bag. I wore the nicest clothes I had, jeans without holes and a sweater Grandma had given me for Christmas. I wanted to look responsible and mature, not like the reckless teenager Jessica was painting me as. Jessica and Joseph's house was in the fancy part of town, with manicured lawns and 3-car garages. Their living room was straight out of a magazine, white couches that looked like no one ever sat on them, and glass tables with no fingerprints. I immediately felt out of place. To my surprise, Dr. Taylor from the counseling center was there, along with a man Jessica introduced as William, their family attorney. My stomach dropped. We hadn't brought a lawyer. We couldn't afford one. I glanced at Dad, who looked as uncomfortable as I felt. Before we begin, Jessica said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, I thought we could all have some refreshments. She gestured to a spread of fancy cheese and crackers on the dining table. As we awkwardly stood around the food, Jessica pulled me aside, saying she wanted to show me something in the kitchen. Remembering Grandma's advice, I slipped my hand into my pocket and turned on the tape recorder. In the kitchen, Jessica dropped the friendly act. This can go one of two ways, she said in a low voice. Either you agree to let us take Noah temporarily while you and Liam finish school, or we take this to court. And trust me, you don't want that. Is that a threat? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It's reality, Casey. We have resources you don't. We can provide for Noah in ways you simply can't right now. Don't you want what's best for him? What's best for him is to be with his mother, I said firmly. Jessica's face hardened. His mother is a child who hid her pregnancy and kept a baby in a basement for weeks. How do you think that will sound to a judge? Before I could respond, Liam walked in. He must have seen something in my face because he immediately asked what was going on. Jessica switched back to her sweet voice, saying we were just having a heart-to-heart. When we returned to the living room, William the attorney started explaining the agreement they'd drawn up. It outlined a plan where Noah would live with Jessica and Joseph during the week, and I could have him on weekends. They would cover all his expenses and set up a college fund for him. In exchange, I would agree not to interfere with their parenting decisions. It wasn't J-int custody they were offering. It was them taking my son and allowing me limited visitation. I looked at Liam, who seemed as shocked as I was. Dad was turning red with anger, and Grandma's lips were pressed into a smile. This is ridiculous, Dad burst out. You can't just take someone's child because you have more money. Jessica smiled tightly. We're offering a solution that benefits everyone, especially Noah. If Casey truly loves her son, she'll want what's best for him. That's when I'd had enough. I stood up, holding Noah close to my chest. What's best for Noah is to grow up knowing his parents love him and never thought of him as a burden or a mistake. I'm not signing anything. Jessica's smile disappeared. Then we'll see you in court. And don't think for a minute that you'll win. As we were leaving, Joseph followed us out to the car. He looked uncomfortable, glancing back at the house like he was was afraid Jessica might see him talking to us. I'm sorry about all this, he said quietly. Jessica, she gets fixated on things. Once she decides something, there's no changing her mind. So you're just going along with it? Liam asked, clearly disappointed in his father. Joseph sighed. I'm trying to minimize the damage, but listen, if it goes to court, there are things you should know. He glanced at his watch nervously. I can't talk now. I'll call you. We drove home in tense silence. I was terrified of going to court. We couldn't afford a lawyer, and Jessica had made it clear she was willing to play dirty. What if a judge believed her lies? What if they took Noah away? When we got home, I put Noah down for a nap, and then broke down crying at the kitchen table. Dad awkwardly patted my shoulder, then surprised me by making hot chocolate, something he used to do when I was little and upset. We'll figure this out, he said, sliding a mug toward me. I promise. That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat in my room looking at Noah in his crib. He was sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm surrounding him. I took out my phone and started researching custody laws, trying to understand what we were up against. The legal jargon made my head spin, but one thing was clear. Without a lawyer, our chances weren't good. The next morning, Joseph called Liam as promised. He said Jessica had been gathering evidence against me for weeks. The doctored photos Barbara mentioned, statements from people claiming they'd seen me neglecting Noah, even medical records she'd somehow obtained through her friend at the clinic. He warned that she was planning to file for emergency custody, claiming Noah was in immediate danger. When? Liam asked, his voice tight with worry. Tomorrow, Joseph replied. I've been trying to talk her out of it, but she won't listen. She's convinced she's doing the right thing. After hanging up, Liam relayed the conversation to me, Dad, and Grandma. We were running out of time and options. That's when Grandma suggested something unexpected. What if we went public with what Jessica's doing? She said. Small town like this, reputation matters. If people knew she was trying to stall a baby from his mother, Dad shook his head. That could backfire. What if people believe her version instead? I thought about the tape recordings I'd been collecting, Jessica's threats, her admission that she was using her resources against us, her manipulation. Maybe there was a way to use them. That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Jessica filed the emergency petition. Hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Joseph. Panic set in. We had less than 24 hours to prepare. Dad called around trying to find a lawyer who would help us on short notice, but the few who were willing wanted thousands of dollars up front, money we didn't have. That evening, while I was feeding Noah, there was a knock at the door. Dad answered it and came back looking confused, holding a thick manila envelope. Some kid on a bike delivered this, he said, handing it to me. Wouldn't say who it was from. Inside was a USB drive and a note that said simply, use this if you need to. Good luck tomorrow. We plugged the USB into Dad's old laptop. It contained dozens of files, emails between Jessica and various people, including her friend at the hospital where I'd taken Noah for his checkups. She'd been trying to get his medical records illegally. There were also screenshots of text messages where she discussed her plan to get custody of Noah, admitting it was to free Liam from his mistake. Most damning of all, there was a recorded phone call where she offered money to someone to testify that they'd seen me neglecting Noah. We were shocked. Who had sent this? The only person who made sense was Joseph. But would he really turn against his wife like that? Regardless of where it came from, we now had evidence of Jessica's manipulation and illegal actions. The question was, how to use it effectively without a lawyer to guide us. Grandma had an idea. Her neighbor's daughter Patricia was a paralegal at a law firm in the next town over. Maybe she could give us some advice, even if she couldn't represent us. It was worth a shot. Patricia agreed to meet us that night after work. She reviewed the evidence in our case, explaining that while she couldn't represent us in court, she could help us prepare. She stayed until midnight, helping us organize our evidence and coaching me on what to say and how to behave in court. The judge will be looking at what's in the best interest of the child, Patricia explained. You need to show that you're a responsible, loving mother who can provide a stable home for Noah. The next morning, I dressed in the most professional outfit I owned, black pants and a blue blouse I'd worn to a school presentation last year. I did my hair neatly and put on minimal makeup, trying to look mature and responsible. Dad wore a tie for the first time in years, and Grandma wore her church dress. Liam met us at the courthouse, looking nervous in dress pants and a button-up shirt. Jessica and Joseph were already there with their attorney. Jessica looked perfectly put together in an expensive-looking suit, her hair and makeup flawless. She gave me a smug smile as we walked in, clearly confident in her victory. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with just a few rows of seats and a raised desk where the judge would sit. Our case was called, and we all moved to the front. Jessica's attorney William spoke first, painting a picture of me as an irresponsible teenager who had hidden her pregnancy and kept a newborn in unsafe conditions. He mentioned the CPS investigation and implied that I was unfit to care for Noah. When it was my turn to speak, my voice shook at first, but I remembered Patricia's advice and took a deep breath. I explained how I had been afraid to tell my dad about the pregnancy because of our difficult relationship, how Grandma had helped me, and how we had made the basement as safe and comfortable as possible for Noah during those first few weeks. I admitted it wasn't ideal, but emphasized that I had always put Noah's needs first. Then I presented the evidence from the USB drive, explaining how Jessica had been manipulating the situation from the beginning. The judge looked increasingly concerned as she reviewed the emails and listened to the recorded phone call. Jessica's face went from smug to panicked. Her attorney tried to object, saying the evidence had been obtained illegally, but the judge overruled him. She wanted to hear everything. When I played the recording of Jessica threatening me in the grocery store, Jessica stood up, her face red with anger. "She's lying," she shouted. "She's manipulated those recordings." The judge called for order and asked Jessica to sit down. William was whispering urgently to her, trying to get her to calm down, but she shook him off. "This is ridiculous," Jessica continued, her voice rising. "We can provide a proper home for that child. She's just a child herself." The judge banged her gavel. "Mrs. Reese, control yourself, or I'll hold you in contempt." Jessica sat down, but the damage was done. done. Her outburst had shown her true colors. The judge called a brief recess to review all the evidence. As we waited outside the courtroom, I noticed Joseph talking quietly to Liam. He looked defeated. When we returned to the courtroom, the judge announced her decision. She denied Jessica's petition for emergency custody, citing concerns about her methods and motivations. She also ordered Jessica to stay away from me and Noah pending a full investigation into her actions. The court's primary concern is the well-being of the child, the judge said. Based on the evidence presented today, I see a young mother who, despite difficult circumstances, is doing her best to provide for her son. I also see troubling evidence of manipulation and possibly illegal actions by the petitioner. Relief washed over me. We had won, at least for now. Jessica stormed out of the courtroom, not even waiting for her attorney. Joseph approached us awkwardly. I'm sorry about all this, he said to Liam. Your mother, she means well, but she goes too far sometimes. Did you send us that USB drive? I asked quietly. Joseph hesitated, then gave a small nod. I couldn't let her do this. It wasn't right. As we left the courthouse, I felt like I could finally breathe again. Noah was still mine. We still had challenges ahead. I needed to finish school, find a job, figure out how to be a good parent, but at least I didn't have to worry about losing him. That evening, as I was putting Noah to bed, Dad knocked on my bedroom door. He looked uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot in the doorway. I've been thinking, he said slowly, about what Grandma said, about me making you feel like a burden. I didn't know what to say, so I just waited. I didn't handle things well when your mom left, he continued. I was angry and hurt, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. He stepped into the room and looked down at Noah in his crib. I don't want him to ever feel the way I made you feel, and I don't want you to feel that way anymore either. It wasn't exactly an apology, but coming from my dad, it was huge. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without crying. We're going to do better, he said firmly. All of us. For Noah. As he turned to leave, I found my voice. Dad, what really happened with Mom? Why did she leave? He paused in the doorway, his shoulders tense. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed. That's a conversation for another day, he said quietly, but I promise we'll have it soon. It wasn't everything I wanted, but it was a start. A promise of honesty and maybe, eventually, healing. As I looked down at Noah, peaceful in his sleep, I felt a glimmer of hope. We had a long way to go, but for the first time, I felt like we might actually make it. The next morning, I woke up to Noah's babbling through the baby monitor. I'd actually slept for 5 straight hours, which felt like a miracle. The court victory against Jessica had lifted this massive weight off my shoulders. I wasn't naive enough to think she'd just give up completely, but at least we had some breathing room. Dad was already in the kitchen making coffee when I came down with Noah. He awkwardly offered to hold him while I made myself breakfast. It was still weird seeing my dad being all grandfatherly, but I handed Noah over and grabbed some cereal. I called work, Dad said, bouncing Noah on his knee. Told them I need to switch to day shift for a while. Figure it'll be easier for all of us if I'm around more in the evenings. I nearly choked on my Cheerios. Dad had worked nights at the factory for as long as I could remember. He always said the night shift paid better. Really? What did they say? Boss wasn't thrilled, but I've been there 15 years. They'll make it work. He shrugged like it wasn't a big deal, but it was. It was huge. Later that day, Liam came over after his shift at the grocery store. He looked exhausted. Turns out Jessica had been on a rampage since the court hearing. She'd thrown his stuff onto the front lawn and changed the locks. Joseph had let him back in when she wasn't home, but the situation was getting worse. She keeps saying I betrayed the family, Liam said, slumped on our couch with Noah asleep on his chest. Dad's sleeping in the guest room. They're barely speaking. I felt terrible. Their family was falling apart because of me. Well, because of Jessica's obsession with controlling Liam's life. But still, you can stay here if you need to, Dad offered, surprising both of us. Couch isn't great, but it's better than walking into World War III every night. Liam looked at me, eyebrows raised. I nodded. It made sense. He was already spending most of his time here anyway, and with Dad switching to days, he'd be home in the evenings to make sure we weren't, not that we had the energy for anything with a newborn baby anyway. The next few weeks settled into a weird new normal. Liam slept on our couch and helped with Noah before and after his shifts at the grocery store. Dad taught him how to change the oil in his car and fix a leaky faucet. I started doing online classes to finish elevated school while Noah napped. Grandma came over most days to help out and cook actual meals instead of the frozen pizza and mac and cheese we'd been living on. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. Noah was growing like crazy, smiling all the time now. The CPS case was still technically open, but Barbara had told us it was just a formality at this point. As long as we kept taking Noah to his checkups and I stayed in school, everything would be fine. Then one Tuesday afternoon, there was a knock at the door. I was alone with Noah, Dad was at work, and Liam was at school. I peeked through the window and saw a woman I didn't recognize. She was maybe in her 30s with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She didn't look like another CPS worker or one of Jessica's friends, so I cautiously opened the door. Can I help you? I asked, holding Noah on my hip. The woman stared at Noah with this weird intensity that made me take a step back. Her eyes were exactly like mine, exactly like Noah's. Casey, she said, her voice shaky. I'm Mary. I'm your mother. I nearly slammed the door in her face. My mom, the woman who abandoned me as a baby, was standing on our porch like it was totally normal to show up after 16 years. I felt dizzy. What are you doing here? I managed to ask, tightening my grip on Noah. Your grandmother called me, she said. She thought, with everything that's happened, that it was time. I was going to call Grandma. How dare she contact my mom without telling me? I stood there frozen, not knowing what to do. Part of me wanted to scream at this woman to leave. Another part had a million questions I'd been saving up my whole life. Can I come in? She asked, just to talk. I understand if you don't want to. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. She walked into our living room, looking around at the baby toys scattered everywhere, the blankets folded on the couch where Liam slept. I didn't offer her anything to drink or invite her to sit. I just stood there, waiting. He's beautiful, she said, nodding toward Noah. What's his name? Noah, I replied automatically. Why are you here? Really? Mary sighed and sat sat down on the edge of the couch. Your grandmother told me about the custody battle, about this woman trying to take your baby. It brought up a lot of things for me. I stayed standing, keeping Noah close. What things? Things I should have told you a long time ago. She looked down at her hands. Things about why I left. I'd imagined this conversation so many times over the years. In my head, I was always cool and detached, telling her I didn't care why she left, that I was fine without her. But now that she was actually here, I found myself sitting down across from her, desperate to finally know the truth. Your dad and I were so young when I got pregnant, she started. 17, just like you were. His parents wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. My parents, your grandparents, were supportive, but they couldn't support us financially. We were on our own. This wasn't news to me. Grandma had told me this much. Your dad left when I was about 6 months pregnant, Mary continued. Just disappeared. No note, no call, nothing. I had you alone, lived with my parents, tried to make it work. It was hard, but we were managing. I glanced down at Noah, trying to imagine doing all this without Liam, without dad, without grandma. It would be impossible. Then when you were about 8 months old, your dad showed up again, said he'd changed, wanted to be a family. I was so tired, so lonely. I believed him. Her voice cracked. We got a little apartment together. Things were okay for a few weeks. Then he started drinking, staying out late. We fought all the time. She paused, like she was trying to find the right words. One night it got bad, really bad. He'd never hit me before, but that night I was scared, Casey. Scared for myself and scared for you. I felt sick. Dad had hit her. He'd never been violent with me, ever. Emotionally distant, sure. Verbally harsh sometimes, definitely. But physical? Never. I packed a bag while he was passed out, took you to my parents' house. The next day he showed up, sober and crying, swearing it would never happen again. My mom wanted me to stay away from him, but my dad, he thought everyone deserved a second chance. Said your dad was just a kid who'd made a mistake. Mary wiped at her eyes. So I went back. Things were better for a while. Then one night, about 2 months later, it happened again. Worse this time. I had to go to the emergency room. Your grandparents took care of you while I was there. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This didn't sound like my dad at all. But why would she lie about this? When I got out of the hospital, I went to get you from my parents. But your dad had already been there. He'd told them I was mentally unstable, that I'd hurt myself and was making up stories about him. He had bruises too, said I'd attacked him. He'd convinced them to let him take you. That's not possible, I said, finding my voice. Grandma would never have let him take me if she thought he was dangerous. Not your grandmother, your grandfather, Mary clarified. He always liked your dad, thought he was just misunderstood. By the time my mom got home from work, you were gone. Your dad had taken you to his parents' house. I remembered Grandma saying that Grandpa had died when I was about 2. I'd never really known him. I tried to get you back, Mary continued, but I had no money for a lawyer. Your dad's parents suddenly decided they wanted to be involved now that he had custody. They hired an attorney. They painted me as unstable, unfit. The court gave him temporary custody while they investigated. She took a deep breath. Then your dad disappeared with you, just packed up and moved in the middle of the night. His parents claimed they didn't know where he'd gone. By the time I tracked you down 6 months later, the custody order was permanent. The court said it would be too disruptive to move you again. I was struggling to process all this. It contradicted everything I'd believed my whole life. Why didn't you keep fighting? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I did, for years, she said. But every time I got close, your dad would move again. Eventually, I ran out of money, out of resources. Your grandmother kept in touch, sent me pictures when she could. She promised to look out for you. So you just gave up? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. I never gave up on you, Casey, but I had to stop chasing. It was destroying me, and it wasn't helping you. Your grandmother promised she'd tell you the truth when you were old enough to understand. I thought about all the times Grandma had tried to talk to me about my mom, how I'd shut her down because I was so angry. Had she been trying to tell me this all along? Why now? I asked. Why come back now? Because history is repeating itself, Mary said simply. This woman trying to take your baby. I couldn't let it happen to you too. And your grandmother thought maybe knowing the truth about your dad might help you understand some things. As if on cue, we heard a car pull into the driveway. Dad was home early. I panicked, not ready for this confrontation. But before I could say anything, the front door opened and Dad walked in. He stopped dead when he saw Mary, his face draining of color like he'd seen a ghost. Mary, he said, his voice strange. What are you doing here? Hello, Thomas, she replied calmly, though I could see her hands shaking. I think it's time we all talked, don't you? Dad looked from her to me, then to Noah in my arms. Something in his face crumpled. Without a word, he walked into the kitchen. I heard the refrigerator open and close, then he came back with 3 beers. He handed one to Mary, one to me, then sat down heavily in his chair. I guess Ellen finally told you everything, he said to me, opening his beer. Grandma called her, I replied, not touching my beer. I was still breastfeeding anyway. Is it true, what she said about why she left? Dad took a long drink, then set the can down carefully. Some of it, not all. Which parts aren't true? Mary challenged, her voice stronger now. I never hit you, Dad said firmly. Never. You know that's not what happened. Mary laughed bitterly. Still denying it after all these years? I had the hospital records, Thomas. The police report. The police report that said it was inconclusive? Dad shut back. Because it was. You were having episodes, Mary. Paranoia, depression. You'd disappear for days, then come back with these wild stories. I looked between them, completely lost. They were describing 2 totally different realities. I was depressed because you were emotionally abusive, Mary said. The disappearing was me staying with my parents when things got bad. Your parents, Dad scoffed. Your dad was an alcoholic who could barely remember his own name half the time. Your mom enabled him for years, then suddenly decided I was the problem. This was getting us nowhere. I stood up, Noah fussing in my arms from all the tension in the room. room. Stop it, both of you, I said. I don't care about your ancient history. I care about now, about Noah, about why you're really here, Mom. It felt weird calling her that. She wasn't my mom, not really. She was just a stranger who happened to have given birth to me. Mary softened. I'm here because I don't want you to lose your baby the way I lost you. I'm here because I want a chance to know my daughter and my grandson. And yes, I'm here because I think you deserve to know the truth about your father. My truth or your truth, Dad muttered. How about the actual truth? I snapped. Grandma said you abandoned Mom when she was pregnant, then showed up years later. Is that true? Dad looked uncomfortable. I panicked when I found out she was pregnant. I was 17, scared out of my mind. I went to stay with my cousin in Ohio for a few months. It was wrong, I know that, but I came back before you were born. You came back when I was 8 months pregnant, Mary corrected, after your parents cut you off and you needed a place to stay. Dad didn't deny this. That was telling. And then what happened? I pressed. After I was born, they both started talking at once, their stories diverging again. According to Dad, Mary had postpartum depression that turned into something more serious. According to Mary, Dad was controlling and abusive, isolating her from her family. The only thing they seemed to agree on was that they fought constantly, and that eventually, Dad got custody of me and left town. I was getting a headache trying to figure out who was telling the truth. Maybe they both believed their own versions. Maybe the truth was somewhere in the middle. Look, I finally said, interrupting their bickering. I don't know what really happened between you two, but I do know that Dad's been here, raising me, however imperfectly. And you haven't, I said to Mary. So if you're here expecting some big mother-daughter reunion, I'm sorry, but that's not happening. Mary looked hurt, but nodded. I understand. I just want a chance to know you, Casey, and Noah, on whatever terms you're comfortable with. I looked at Dad. Despite everything I just heard, he was still my dad, the person who'd been there, even when he was emotionally distant, the person who was trying to do better now. I need time to think, I said honestly. This is a lot to process. Mary stood up. Of course. I'm staying at the Holiday Inn for a few days. Here's my number. She handed me a slip of paper. Call me if you want to talk more. After she left, Dad and I sat in silence for a long time. Noah had fallen asleep in my arms, oblivious to the emotional tornado that had just blown through our lives. I wasn't perfect, Dad finally said. I made a lot of mistakes, but I never hit your mother, Casey. Never. I nodded, not because I necessarily believed him, but because I didn't know what else to do. I'm going to put Noah down for his nap. Upstairs in my room, I laid Noah in his crib and just watched him sleep for a while, his little chest rising and falling, his perfect tiny fingers. I thought about what Mary had said, about history repeating itself. Was that what was happening? Was Jessica trying to take Noah the way Dad had supposedly taken me? But it wasn't the same. Jessica wasn't Noah's parent. She had no right to him. And whatever had happened between my parents, Dad had legal custody of me. He might not have been father of the year, but he'd kept me fed, housed, and safe. I called Grandma that evening after Dad went to bed. I was still mad at her for contacting my mom without telling me, but I needed her perspective. Why didn't you ever tell me the whole story? I asked as soon as she picked up. Grandma sighed. I tried, sweetheart, so many times, but you were either too young to understand or too angry to listen. And your father, he made it clear there would be consequences if I told you certain things. What things? What really happened, Grandma? The truth is complicated, she said carefully. Your mother struggled after you were born. That part is true. But your father, he had a temper back then. A bad one. There were incidents. Did he hit her? I asked directly. Grandma was quiet for a moment. There was one night. I came to your apartment and found your mother with bruises. Your father said she'd fallen. She told me a different story when he wasn't around. I closed my eyes, trying to reconcile this with the father I knew, but he's never been violent with me. Ever. People change, Casey. Losing your mother, having to raise you alone, it sobered him up in more ways than one. I think he's carried a lot of guilt all these years. That actually made sense. The drinking, the emotional distance, the constant reminders that I'd ruined his life. Maybe it wasn't about me at all. Maybe it was about his own guilt. What should I do about Mary? I asked. She wants to be in my life, in Noah's life. That's entirely up to you, sweetheart, Grandma said. She's made mistakes too, but she's never stopped loving you. After we hung up, I sat on my bed thinking for a long time about parents and children, about mistakes and forgiveness, about the cycles we repeat and the ones we break. The next morning, I called Mary and invited her to come over. I also texted Liam and asked him to be there. This affected him and Noah too. When Mary arrived, we all sat in the living room. Me, Liam, Mary, and Dad. Noah was happily playing in his bouncer, oblivious to the tension. I've been thinking about everything, I started, and I don't know if I'll ever know exactly what happened between you two, but I do know that I don't want Noah growing up in the middle of adult conflicts the way I did. I looked at Dad. You've been trying to do better lately. I see that, and I appreciate it. Then I turned to Mary. I'm not ready for a mother-daughter relationship. I don't know if I'll ever be, but I'm willing to get to know you slowly, as a person. And if that goes well, maybe you can be part of Noah's life too. Mary nodded, tears in her eyes. That's more than I hoped for. Thank you. There are conditions, I continued. No bad-mouthing each other in front of Noah. No trying to turn him against anyone. No using him as a pawn the way I was used. Both my parents nodded solemnly. And one more thing, I said, looking directly at Dad. I need you to tell me the truth someday. The whole truth. When you're ready. Dad looked down at his hands, then back at me. I will. I promise. It wasn't a perfect solution. There were still a lot of unanswered questions and unresolved feelings, but it was a start. A chance to break the cycle. To do better for Noah than our parents had done for us. As for Jessica, we didn't hear from her for a while after the court hearing. Joseph told Liam she'd gone to stay with her sister in Florida. Maybe she was finally accepting that she couldn't control Liam's life anymore, or maybe she was just regrouping for another attack. Either way, we were ready. Liam eventually moved into Grandma's house after she offered him her spare room. It made more sense than him sleeping on our couch forever, and it gave us some space to figure out our relationship without the pressure of living together. together. He still came over every day to see Noah, and we were slowly building a future together. I finished my elevated school classes online and even started taking some community college courses. Dad switched permanently to day shift and became surprisingly involved with Noah. Sometimes I'd come home to find them napping together on the couch, Noah sprawled across Dad's chest. Mary kept her promise to take things slow. We'd meet for coffee once a week, just talking and getting to know each other. I wasn't ready to call her mom yet, but I was starting to see her as a person, not just the woman who abandoned me. One evening, about 6 months after everything happened, Dad came into my room while I was getting Noah ready for bed. He sat on the edge of my bed and watched us for a minute. I hit her, he said quietly. Your mother, not often, just twice, but that was twice too many. I stopped what I was doing, shocked that he was finally admitting it. I was drinking a lot back then, angry all the time, scared of failing as a father. He stared down at his hands. It's no excuse. There is no excuse. But I want you to know that I've regretted it every day since. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was angry that he'd lied for so long. Another part was relieved to finally know the truth. I took you because I was afraid, he continued. Afraid she'd keep you from me. Afraid of what would happen to you if I wasn't around. And then once I had you, I was terrified of screwing up. So I kept everyone at a distance, even you. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. I'm sorry, Casey, for all of it. I nodded, not quite ready to say I forgave him, but acknowledging his apology. It was another step forward. As I put Noah to bed that night, I thought about how complicated families are, how we hurt each other, disappoint each other, but somehow still love each other through it all. How we carry our parents' mistakes with us, but we don't have to repeat them. Noah wouldn't grow up thinking he was a burden. He wouldn't grow up in the middle of custody battles or family secrets. He would grow up knowing he was loved by me, Lee, his grandparents, all of them, even Jessica in her misguided way. It wasn't the family I'd imagined, but it was ours, and we were making it work, one day at a time.
My mother locked me in a soundproof closet and poisoned me into silence, then blamed what she did on mental health. I exposed her, got her convicted, and moved on. She just reached out after 5 years. Growing up, my mom had misophonia. For those who don't know, it's where you genuinely just cannot stand any loud sounds. And, in my mom's case, they made her Sewer's Lidl. My first memory is when I was 6 years old, and my mom stuffed a dirty dish towel in my mouth because, in her defense, I was crying my eyes out after a simple fall. If I ever snored too loudly, she would play a very loud sound horn in my room until I woke up. This was to negatively reinforce my bad behavior, so that I would have an easier time not doing it, so I ought to thank her. And on my 9th birthday, she got me a gift. It was a homemade report card with rows that were completely empty. She called it the quiet points system. Suddenly, everything clicked, because for the weeks leading up to this moment, she had labeled all the food in the kitchen with a sticky note that had a number on it. Bread was 2 points, while all the meat was at least 10 points or higher. You earned points through being quiet, and the times I found it hardest were the ones that earned more. For example, being quiet while I showered was only 3 points, while not snoring was given 8. She could never take points away for no reason, but I would have to spend it on food, meaning I'd always have to do something to earn it. And at the time, I was just a 9-year-old with big brown eyes filled with light and a heart that loved her mommy. So I just shrugged and wrapped my arms around her, not saying a word so as to not trigger her misophonia. Plus, I was used to being quiet anyway, so I didn't think this would change anything. The next morning when I woke up, I followed my usual routine. Slowly drew back the curtains, waited until I arrived at the school bathrooms to get changed out of my pajamas, all whilst having an overly grimaced face, all in the name of keeping the house quiet. And apparently this pleased my mom a lot, because when I got home from school, she handed me the report card she had gotten me for my birthday. In big bold lettering it said 30 points, followed by multiple smiley faces and hearts. And before I could say anything, she opened the fridge and showed me the selection I had to pick from for dinner. I could pretty much afford everything except my favorite ice cream, so I chose my favorite, steak. And we enjoyed it together like any other healthy family. Lowell JK. She made the steak extremely overcooked, so I couldn't swallow it without chewing super hard. And as a misophonic person, mouth sounds are deadly to my mother. I tried to chew extremely slowly, producing as much saliva as possible to help break down the meat. After 5 minutes of painfully slow chewing one piece, I couldn't take it anymore. I discreetly spit it out into a tissue, deciding I would eat nothing that day. But she still wasn't happy. "What the F are you doing?" my mom yelled. "A cow died for you today. The least you can do is eat it all. Put it back in your mouth, now." My tiny fingers immediately unraveled the white tissue and shoved it back into my mouth. On the way in, I had my mouth open and my tongue smacked against the roof of my mouth. I immediately went completely still, hoping she wouldn't notice. But I was too late. The room was silent as she banged both her fists against the flowery tablecloth. "You disgraceful beach!" she yelled at the top of her lungs. She grabbed the report card back from me and burned it on the stove. "You think I can't make you suffer the same way you make me suffer? Think again." I was already in a lot of fear, but that's when she grabbed my hands and shoved them towards the stove. "The burning pain you feel is only 20% of how I feel when you make noise. Remember that." Luckily, she never actually put my hand in the fire, and I didn't burst into tears. Heck, it didn't even make me cry. Not because I didn't feel upset, I did. And not because I didn't want to, I absolutely did. But because I didn't want my mom to punish me for making noise while crying. So I quietly tiptoed to bed and ended up having oxygen for dinner and breakfast breakfast and lunch and dinner again. You see, that one moment had made me go into the minus zone on my meal points, so I had nothing to buy my meals with. But my mom was a good person. She wasn't like other abusive parents that keep you healthy enough so as to not raise alarm bells. So after 3 days of pure starvation, I fainted in school. It was only for 20 seconds, but everyone was really worried, especially since the first thing I said when I woke up was, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fall so loudly. Please don't starve me anymore." Lol. The guidance counselor pulled me into her room and handed me a Hershey's milk chocolate bar, a banana, and a Kind bar. I chewed them so quickly I was gagging. When I was done, I looked back up at her and her eyes were filled with tears, while her face went ghost white. She didn't even ask or say anything, just told me they were calling CPS. The guidance counselor's hands shook as she reached for her phone. I watched her dial the numbers, each beep making my stomach twist tighter. She kept glancing at me between pressing buttons, like she was checking I wouldn't disappear. "Yes, this is Mrs. Henderson at Oakwood Elementary. I need to report a case of suspected child abuse and neglect." Her voice cracked on the last word. She gave them our address, my name, my mother's name. Each detail felt like another nail in a coffin I couldn't identify yet. While she talked, I sat completely still. My body had learned that stillness meant safety, that movement created sound, and sound created pain. Even with my stomach finally full, the habit remained. I counted my breath silently, making sure each inhale and exhale made no noise. Mrs. Henderson hung up and turned back to me. "Sweetie, some people are going to come talk to you. They just want to make sure you're safe." She pulled her chair closer, and the scraping sound made me flinch. "Can you tell me more about what's been happening at home?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. The words felt too loud before I even spoke them. But Mrs. Henderson waited, her face patient and kind in a way that made my chest hurt. "My mom has misophonia," I whispered, so quietly she had to lean forward. Sounds make her want to hurt herself, so I have to be quiet. "And the food? Tell me about not being able to eat." I explained the point system, how I earned quiet points for not making sounds, how each food cost points, how I'd gone negative after making a mouth sound while eating. Mrs. Henderson's face got paler with each detail. She made me put the chewed up meat back in my mouth from the tissue, I added, the memory making my stomach turn. Then she held my hands near the stove. She said the burning was only 20% of how sounds made her feel. Mrs. Henderson wrote everything down, her pen moving fast across the paper. "How long has this been happening?" The point system started on my birthday, but the being quiet, I tried to think back. Always. She put a dish towel in my mouth when I was 6 because I cried after falling, and she uses a sound horn when I snore. The door opened and Principal Morrison walked in with 2 people I didn't recognize, a woman with short gray hair and kind eyes, and a younger man with a clipboard. "This is Ms. Rodriguez from Child Protective Services," Principal Morrison said, "and Mr. James, her colleague. They're here to help." Ms. Rodriguez sat down across from me. "Hi there. I know this might be scary, but we're here to make sure you're safe. Can you tell me what happened today?" I repeated the story, each telling making it feel more real and more terrifying. They asked questions about bruises. I didn't have any visible ones. About how often I ate, depending on my points. About whether anyone else knew. No one. "We're going to need to go to your house," Ms. Rodriguez said gently, "to talk to your mom and see your living situation. But first, I think the nurse should check you over, make sure you're physically okay." The walk to the nurse's office felt endless. Other kids were in class, their muffled voices coming through doorways. Normal kids who could laugh and talk and eat without earning it. Nurse Patricia weighed me first. 72 pounds, she said, frowning. "That's quite underweight for your age and height." She checked my blood pressure, looked in my eyes and throat, listened to my heart. Each test required me to move or breathe in ways that made sound, and I kept apologizing. "Honey, you don't need to apologize for breathing," she said, but I couldn't stop. She documented everything while Ms. Rodriguez watched. The way my ribs showed, the dark circles under my eyes, how I flinched at every sound I made. "When did you last eat before today?" Nurse Patricia asked. 3 days ago. I had steak, but I couldn't chew it quietly enough. She exchanged looks with Ms. Rodriguez. "We need to take her to the hospital for a full evaluation." "No!" The word burst out louder than I'd spoken in months. "My mom will know. She'll know I made noise that I told. I couldn't finish. "Your mom is going to be contacted regardless," Ms. Rodriguez said, "but you won't be going home until we've investigated. You're safe now." But I didn't feel safe. I felt exposed, like I'd broken every rule that kept me alive. My breathing got faster, louder, and I couldn't make it stop. The panic made more noise, gasping, wheezing, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Nurse Patricia grabbed a paper bag. "Breathe into this. It's okay to make noise. You're safe." The principal's phone rang. "Yes, Mrs. Chen is here. I see. Yes, I'll let them know." He hung up. "Your mother just arrived. She's demanding to take you home." My whole body went rigid. Ms. Rodriguez noticed. "She can't take you anywhere right now. We have a legal hold while we investigate." They moved me to a small conference room away from the main office. I could hear my mother's voice getting closer, using her fake nice tone she saved for other adults. "I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. My daughter has such an active imagination. You know how children can be. Mrs. Chen, I'm Ms. Rodriguez from CPS. We need to speak with you about some concerns that have been raised." "Concerns? This is ridiculous. My daughter has some behavioral issues we're working through. She's in therapy for attention-seeking behavior." I wanted to scream that it wasn't true, but years of training kept me silent. Through the door, I heard my mother explain her condition, how hard it was to live with misophonia, how she did her best despite her disability. "We'll need to visit your home," Ms. Rodriguez said, "and speak with your daughter's therapist." "Of course. You'll see everything is fine. In fact, I just went grocery shopping yesterday. The fridge is fully stocked." My heart sank. She'd prepared. Somehow she'd known this was coming and prepared. Mr. James stayed with me while Ms. Rodriguez and another CPS worker went with my mother. Principal Morrison sat with us too, offering me water that I was too scared to drink because swallowing made noise. The therapist therapist she mentioned, I whispered to Mr. James. I've never been to therapy. He made a note. We'll verify everything she tells us. Hours passed. I dozed off in the chair, exhausted from the stress and the first full meal I'd had in days. When I woke, Ms. Rodriguez was back, her face carefully neutral. We visited your home, she said. Your mother showed us a fully stocked kitchen, your clean bedroom. Everything appeared normal. My chest tightened. The point system chart? We didn't see anything like that. Your mother said she uses a standard behavior chart for chores. No, it was on the fridge, with all the sticky notes on the food, but even as I said it, I knew she'd removed everything. We'll keep investigating, Ms. Rodriguez assured me, but for tonight, since we can't find immediate evidence of physical abuse or neglect, you'll need to go home. However, we'll be doing follow-up visits and interviews. The room spun. They were sending me back. Principal Morrison protested. The child fainted from starvation. The nurse documented her being severely underweight. Her mother showed us medical records indicating an eating disorder. Said she's been trying to get her daughter help, but she refuses to eat. That's not true! But my voice was so quiet from years of practice that it barely carried. Ms. Rodriguez knelt beside me. I believe something is wrong here, but legally, without evidence, I can't remove you from your home yet. Here's my card. Call me if anything happens. We'll be back tomorrow for a follow-up. The drive home with my mother was silent. Not the comfortable quiet of two people at peace, but the terrifying silence before a storm. She didn't speak until we pulled into our driveway. You've made things very difficult, she said, her voice deadly calm. But don't worry, I have a solution. Inside, I saw what she meant. The kitchen looked normal, full of food, no point system, no sticky notes. But in my room sat a pair of noise-canceling headphones and a white noise machine. Your new therapist recommended these, she said, though I knew there was no therapist. You'll wear them whenever you're home except for doctor's orders for your sensory processing disorder. She put them on my head and turned on the white noise. The world disappeared into a rushing sound like ocean waves. I couldn't hear her footsteps, couldn't hear if she was approaching, couldn't hear anything but the endless white static. I pulled them off. I can't put them back on! Her scream made me comply instantly. She held up a piece of paper. Doctor's note, if you don't follow treatment, it's medical non-compliance. That would look very bad for your little CPS friends. The headphones went back on. The white noise filled my world. I watched her mouth move, but heard nothing. She pointed to my desk where homework waited, then left. I sat at my desk, the white noise drowning everything. When I tried to remove them to use the bathroom, she appeared immediately, pointing at the doctor's note. I learned to lip-read bathroom, and she'd nod permission for temporary removal. Dinner was the only reprieve. She'd tap my shoulder, remove the headphones, and we'd eat in silence. Real food now. She kept the fridge stocked, but the silence felt heavier than before. CPS will be back tomorrow, she said during dinner. You'll tell them the headphones are helping your condition, that you're eating well, that everything is fine. I nodded. What else could I do? That night, the headphones stayed on even in bed. The white noise made it impossible to know if she was in my room, watching. I lay rigid, afraid to move, afraid to make sounds I couldn't hear myself making. The next day at school was freedom. I could hear again, though every sound felt overwhelming after hours of white noise. Mrs. Henderson checked on me. How did yesterday go? She asked gently. I wanted to tell her about the headphones, the fake doctor's note, the new system of control, but I knew my mother would have an explanation for everything. She has the house full of food now, I said instead. Mrs. Henderson frowned. And you're eating? Yes, but something's still wrong, isn't it? I nodded, tears threatening. She has these headphones. Mrs. Henderson leaned closer, her expression shifting to concern. Headphones? What kind of headphones? Before I could explain further, the classroom door opened. My mother stood there with her practiced smile, holding a manila folder. Sorry to interrupt. I just need to drop off some medical documentation for the office. My blood turned to ice. Mrs. Henderson straightened up, maintaining her professional demeanor. Of course, Mrs. Chen. I'll make sure it gets to the right place. Actually, I was hoping to speak with you briefly about my daughter's new treatment plan. My mother's eyes found mine, and though her smile never wavered, the warning was clear. Her therapist says it's important all her teachers understand her sensory processing disorder. Mrs. Henderson glanced at me, then back at my mother. I have a few minutes before my next class. They stepped into the hallway. Through the small window in the door, I watched my mother hand over papers, gesturing as she spoke. Mrs. Henderson nodded along, occasionally looking troubled, but ultimately accepting whatever story my mother was spinning. When Mrs. Henderson returned alone, her face had changed. The concern was still there, but now mixed with something else. Doubt. Your mother explained about the headphones, she said carefully. She showed me the treatment plan from Dr. Nichols. There is no Dr. Nichols, I whispered desperately. Mrs. Henderson's expression grew complicated. She had official letterhead, detailed treatment notes dating back months. She said you might say that denying medical help is part of your condition. The trap was perfect. Every protest I made would only confirm my mother's story about attention-seeking behavior and treatment resistance. I felt the walls closing in again, tighter than before. During math class, I noticed my mother hadn't left. Through the window, I saw her in the main office, chatting with the secretary, laughing at something on her phone, volunteering, she'd probably say, being an involved parent. At lunch, I sat alone as usual, mechanically eating the sandwich my mother had packed. Real food, nutritious and filling, evidence of her good parenting. Across the cafeteria, I noticed a substitute teacher I'd never seen before. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with short dark hair and observant eyes that seemed to take in everything. The afternoon dragged on. Every time I passed the office, my mother was still there, filing papers, answering phones, making herself indispensable. When the final bell rang, she was waiting by my classroom. Ready to go home, sweetheart? Her voice was honey sweet for the other parents nearby. In the car, her facade dropped. That was a warning. Every word you speak at school, I'll know about. Every teacher you try to manipulate, I'll get to first. The documentation is extensive and thoroughly believable. At home, the headphones went went on immediately. The white noise crashed over me like a wave, drowning out the world. I did homework in silence, ate dinner in brief reprieves, then back to the rushing static that made my head ache. Days blurred together. The headphones left marks on my head from the constant pressure. My ears rang even during the brief moments without them. At school, I moved through classes like a ghost, too exhausted to focus, too afraid to speak up again. The substitute teacher appeared more frequently. Ms. Seaby, I learned from overhearing other teachers. She subbed for different classes, but I noticed her watching me during lunch, during recess, quick glances that lingered just a moment too long. One day, she was substituting for my regular teacher. As she wrote math problems on the board, I found myself tapping my pencil against my desk, unconsciously at first, then with more purpose. Short taps and long taps. A pattern I'd seen in an old movie my mother had let me watch before the point system started. Ms. Seaby's hand paused mid-equation. She turned slowly, her eyes finding mine. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then she returned to the board, but I saw her hand trembling slightly. After class, as students filed out, she called out, "Could you stay for a moment? I have a question about your homework." My mother wasn't in the office that day. She had a dentist appointment she couldn't reschedule. I approached Ms. Seaby's desk cautiously. She pulled out a piece of paper and wrote, "Are you okay?" I stared at the words, then at her. She tapped the paper. Once short, twice long, once short, then pointed at me with raised eyebrows. My hand shook as I took the pencil. Instead of writing, I tapped on the paper. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. Her face went pale. She wrote quickly, "Who is hurting you?" I glanced at the door, then tapped again. More complex this time, spelling out slowly, M-O-M. Ms. Seaby's jaw tightened. She wrote, "I'll help. Be careful. Act normal." I nodded and hurried out, my heart pounding. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope, but hope was dangerous. That evening, my mother was different, watchful. She made me remove the headphones during dinner, but didn't speak, just studied me with calculating eyes. "Interesting day at school?" she finally asked. I shook my head, focusing on my chicken. "Ms. Seaby seems nice, young, idealistic, probably thinks she can save the world one student at a time." Her tone was casual, but I heard the threat underneath. Shame she's only temporary. I heard she might be transferred to another district soon. My hand stilled on my fork. She knew. Somehow, she always knew. The next day, Ms. Seaby wasn't there, or the next. When I finally saw her again a week later, she was substituting for the art teacher. She wouldn't meet my eyes. During art class, while working on a painting, I found a small folded note tucked under my paint palette. I carefully unfolded it beneath my desk. "Your mother visited my apartment. She knows where I live. I'm sorry." I crumpled the note, despair washing over me. Even Ms. Seaby, trained to recognize Morse code, probably former military or something, was powerless against my mother's manipulation. The weeks crawled by. My weight dropped again despite the regular meals. The constant white noise left me disoriented, stumbling into walls, unable to gauge distance or sound. At school, teachers grew concerned, but my mother always had an explanation. Adjustment period to new medication, sensory integration therapy, breakthrough treatments for my condition. Then came the family therapy sessions. My mother had found a therapist, Dr. Klaus, who specialized in difficult children. The first session, I tried to tell the truth. "She makes me wear headphones all the time at home," I said, the words feeling strange after so much silence. "With white noise so loud I can't hear anything." Dr. Klaus nodded thoughtfully. "And why do you think your mother implements this treatment?" "It's not treatment. She just doesn't want to hear me exist." My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "You see, this is what I deal with. The aggression, the accusations. I've tried everything to help her." "I understand this must be very difficult," Dr. Klaus said to my mother. "Children with oppositional defiant disorder often reject helpful interventions." "I don't have that," I protested, interrupting, arguing, refusing to comply with reasonable requests. Dr. Klaus made notes. Classic presentations. My mother pulled out her phone. "I've actually been recording some of her behaviors at home, for documentation purposes." She played a recording. It was my voice, but distorted, edited. Sounds of me supposedly slamming doors, stomping, screaming, things I'd never done, couldn't do without severe punishment. But the audio was convincing. That's not, I stammered. "Denial is also typical," Dr. Klaus said. "Mrs. Chen, I think we need to consider more intensive interventions." The sessions became weekly torture. My mother would play her edited recordings, show her fabricated documentation, cry about how hard she tried. Dr. Klaus ate it up, prescribing medications that made me foggy, recommending stricter behavioral controls, validating every twisted narrative my mother spun. I stopped protesting. What was the point? Every word I said was twisted. Every truth I told became evidence of my condition. At school, I grew more isolated. The other kids whispered about the weird girl who wore headphones at home, who had to see a special doctor, who made up stories about her mom. Even teachers kept their distance, warned by my mother about my manipulative tendencies. One day, in desperation, I started leaving tiny notes in hidden places, under desks, behind books, in bathroom stalls, simple messages, "Help me. My mom is lying. Please believe me." For a week, nothing happened. Then I saw my mother in the library volunteering again. She was thorough, cleaning every surface, checking every book. My heart sank as I watched her pocket something small and white. That evening, she presented a folder to Dr. Klaus during our session. "I found these at school. She's been leaving them everywhere, trying to get attention." Dr. Klaus examined the notes with a grave expression. "This escalation is concerning. Have you considered inpatient treatment?" "No." The word tore from my throat. "Please, I'll stop. I'll be good. I'll be quiet." My mother's eyes glinted with satisfaction. "See how she bargains? Classic manipulation." "I think we should increase her medication," Dr. Klaus said, "and perhaps implement a more structured behavioral plan at home." The new pills made everything worse. The world felt wrapped in cotton, my thoughts slow and sticky. Combined with the constant white noise, I existed in a bubble of sensory deprivation deprivation. Days blended together in a haze of muffled sound and foggy consciousness. My mother added cameras to my room for my safety, she told Dr. Klaus. Now she watched everything. When I slept, when I changed, when I did homework. The headphones stayed on even in the bathroom now, except for the brief moments needed for basic hygiene. I learned she'd been documenting everything for years. During one therapy session, she produced journals dating back to when I was 4. Detailed accounts of my supposed noise-making, my deliberate attempts to trigger her with journals dating back to when I was 4. Detailed accounts of my supposed noise-making, my deliberate attempts to trigger her misophonia, my malicious behavior. All fiction, but meticulously crafted. You can see the pattern, she told Dr. Klaus, flipping through pages of lies. The escalation over time. I've tried so hard to be patient, to understand, but she seems determined to hurt me. I wanted to scream that none of it was real, but the medication made it hard to form words. My protest came out slurred, confused, which only reinforced her narrative of a disturbed child. School became my only escape from the headphones, but even that was tainted. My mother volunteered 3 days a week now, always watching, always nearby. Teachers praised her dedication. Other parents admired her strength in dealing with such a difficult child. The substitute teacher, Ms. Seeby, still appeared occasionally. She'd learned to avoid me, but sometimes I caught her watching with haunted eyes. Whatever my mother had done to scare her, it had worked. One morning, I woke up dizzy. The room spun when I sat up, and I had to grip the bed frame to keep from falling. The medication doses had increased again, and I suspected my mother was adding extra to my food. At breakfast, I struggled to lift my spoon. My mother watched with false concern. You seem tired, sweetheart. Maybe you should stay home today. No, I managed. School meant no headphones. School meant a break from the white noise that was slowly driving me insane. If you insist, she said, but I saw her make a note in her journal. At school, I could barely stay awake. During PE, while attempting to run laps, my legs gave out. I collapsed on the track, the world tilting sideways. I woke in the nurse's office again. Nurse Patricia was taking my blood pressure. Her face creased with worry. Your blood pressure is very low, she said, and your pulse is irregular. What medications are you taking? I tried to remember the names, but my thoughts were too fuzzy. Pills, I mumbled. For my condition, she frowned. I need to see a medication list. This could be an interaction issue. My mother arrived within minutes, as if she'd been waiting for the call. She handed over a typed list to Nurse Patricia, explaining each medication, the dosages, the prescribing doctor. These doses seem very high for a child her age, Nurse Patricia said carefully. Dr. Klaus is a specialist, my mother replied smoothly. He knows what he's doing. Perhaps you'd like to call him? She produced Dr. Klaus's business card. Nurse Patricia did call, and I listened to her side of the conversation, growing more subdued as Dr. Klaus no doubt explained my severe behavioral disorders and the necessity of aggressive treatment. When she hung up, Nurse Patricia looked defeated. He says the medications are appropriate for her condition, but I'm going to document this incident thoroughly. My mother's smile was razor sharp. Of course, documentation is so important. As she drove me home, my mother was silent until we reached a red light. Then she turned to look at me. You're getting sloppy, she said quietly. Making scenes, drawing attention. That needs to stop. The medicine makes me sick, I whispered. The medicine keeps you manageable, she corrected. Would you prefer the alternative? I didn't ask what the alternative was. I already knew. The soundproof closet she'd built in the basement, discovered during one of my foggy explorations while she was at the store. A small, dark space with padding on the walls, a lock on the outside. That night, she showed me a new journal entry she was writing. Daughter exhibited substance-seeking behavior today. Attempted to convince school nurse to change her medications.
Extremely low
entry she was writing. Daughter exhibited substance-seeking behavior today. Attempted to convince school nurse to change her medications. When confronted, became agitated and accusatory, concerning escalation in manipulative behaviors.